In this video, we're going to be looking at the evaluation, the AO3 of cognitive explanations. I've chosen to split these psychological explanations into cognitive and family dysfunction and given your AO3 separately as well, just to ensure that you've got enough content to write a 16-mark essay on either one of these. So the main strengths we'll look at in a moment is research by Sterling, looking at how schizophrenics perform during the Stroop task. And we'll also in a moment talk about the unclear cognitive mechanisms and the questions that still surround cognitive explanations. But one thing to note is that cognitive impairments are really common in people with schizophrenia. 75% of schizophrenics will suffer from some sort of cognitive impairment. And this could be impairment in attention or working memory or motor skills or executive and function or IQ. And it's really important to note that these cognitive impairments often predate symptom onset, which means a couple of important things. One, it's not due to substance abuse, which we know is often a comorbid diagnosis with schizophrenia. So it's not due to them abusing substances like alcohol, which is really common with schizophrenia. We also know that it's actually not due to the antipsychotic medication. And we know that it's not due to the disorder itself. We know that this is less a symptom of schizophrenia and actually more of a cause of schizophrenia or an explanation for schizophrenia. So the fact that the cognitive impairments predate the symptoms means that it's less an effect and more an explanation. So now I want to focus on research support for dysfunctional information processing, particularly here central control. A really simple study, an easy one for you to remember. Here we're comparing 30 schizophrenics with an equal number of healthy controls. And they did a range of cognitive tasks. The main one is the Stroop task, which is this one here, where you're required to suppress the impulse to read the word, for example, red, blue, orange, purple, and instead focus on the colour of the ink. These are all. So for example, red, green, orange, purple. And so this is the task that people are required to do. And they found that schizophrenics took twice as long to name the ink colour relative to the control group. They found it really hard to suppress the impulse to read the word and instead focus on the deliberate action of the ink that the word was written in. So they took twice as long to complete this task because of the dysfunction to central control. And this obviously therefore provides evidence and increases the validity of dysfunctional central control as an explanation of schizophrenia. However, it's still unclear exactly what cognitive mechanisms are involved here, what is causing this impairment. The theories themselves actually don't explain what leads to schizophrenia. Although we can see that there is obviously a clear link between dysfunctional thinking and cognitive explanations, they can only ever actually explain the proximal origins of the disorder, i.e., they can only explain what's actually causing the current symptoms. These explanations cannot explain the distal causes, i.e. the origin of the disorder. So they can explain what's happening now to produce symptoms, but not what initially caused the disorder in the first place. We need to question whether these cognitive factors are a result of abnormal brain functioning. Are the distal causes actually biological? And therefore, are they more helpful in explaining schizophrenia? Likewise, the distal causes, the origin of the disorder, might actually be due to family dysfunction. And that's a better explanation for the disorder. So, cognitive dysfunction, issues with central control and dysfunctional meta-representation don't actually explain the onset of the disorder. It can only explain particular symptoms that schizophrenics seem to suffer from. Thus, the cognitive explanations cannot be seen as explaining the causes of the disorder, and we may be forced to other explanations like biological or other psychological explanations like family dysfunction. Cognitive explanations in themselves are incomplete.